Hi, welcome to How to Repair. Today we're going to show you how to replace a drum on a Hotpoint or Indesit washing machine, and this video can be used for reference on any of the Whirlpool manufactured machines. Now the first thing you need to do is identify that the bearings need replacing or the drum needs replacing. In the old days you used to replace the bearings, which was an affordable job. But nowadays manufacturers make a lot of sealed drums, which is I call built-in obsolescence, and they are quite expensive. I was able to pick this drum up for £80 on a special offer, so therefore it's economic to replace. Some of the drums go into the region of about £130, £140 and can even go in excess of that. So the first thing you need to do is understand what's wrong with the machine. Now when the bearings go, you can hear this noise, me lifting the drum up, and when I rotate it, you can hear that the bearings and spider have collapsed. Technical term for this, it's knackered. We need to put a new drum into the machine. So you need to use your full model number, which will be on the front of the machine, or usually there is a sticker on the back of the machine. Enter this into the website and then do a search. Hopefully you'll find a drum. If you don't find a drum, please use the contact us page because it may be a special order item and we need to get it in for you. So if you use the contact us page, enter your full model number and then just ask for a quotation on a drum. We'll be happy to oblige. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to timestamp this video so you can get to the specific component you need help in undoing or replacing while we strip the machine down to replace the drum. So I'm going to do all the work on the bottom of the machine first before we start the work on the top and lift the drum out of the machine, because the front panel does not come off this machine. So the first thing you need to do is drain the machine down. Hold the pipe. Make sure there's no water in the machine. This one's already dry, so we're fine there. Next thing, we need to take the back plate off. While I'm doing this, here is the sticker I was talking to you about. And as you can see, you've got the full model number at the bottom, also with a 10 or 12 digit number, which is also useful for identifying the correct drum for your machine. And sometimes you will be able to find a machine which has knackered electrics that may still have a good drum in that machine, and you may be able to pick it up at a good price. So do enter your model number into the website, as you will be able to find a drum either out of a new machine or a second-hand machine. Now, one of the first things I would suggest you do is keep all the screws correctly located, because there are a multitude of different variations. And I'm going to use this to organise all the screws. As you can see, there are different screws there. So I'm going to take the belt off, just bring this towards you, undo that. Then we're going to take the electrics off the heater, the NTC sensor, the earth wire, and the live wire. There's a couple of cable ties we need to cut. This will allow us to pull that off. Then you need to unplug the motor. And that plug comes out of the way. And now we need to undo the hose on the bottom of the drum, and we're also going to remove the motor in location to reduce the weight when you have to lift the drum out of the machine. This is 10mm bolts. Only 2 bolts on this motor. Next thing you need to do is ease the motor away while supporting the motor to get it out. So I'll just use a flat blade screwdriver on this and I'll go underneath, support the motor, lift it away, and then I'm able to drop the motor down. The motor on this machine is a 3-phase motor, not a brush motor, but if it was a brush motor, I do recommend inspecting the carbon brushes while you have the motor off. So I've laid the machine down and we're going to remove the sump hose because we also want to clean this while replacing the drum. So undo the clip, slide that off, and while it's out, we will undo the clip on the drum. This allows me to take the hose out, take the ball out and clean all the hose while we're doing this, because this will reduce the mold that builds up in washing machines. By the way, you can see all about that in another video. Next thing we need to do is the 2 suspensions legs. Undo these. Straightforward. I'm going to undo them on the machine at the moment because there are 2 pins that we need to remove the suspension legs, but we'll remove them when we take the drum out of the machine. So I'm just going to undo this, supporting the leg. Then I'm able to slide the suspension leg back in and compress it. And I'm going to put the nut back on so I don't damage the threads. Then do the other side. Again, support the leg. Now when I lift the machine down from the workbench, this will be supported by the 2 springs at the top of the machine, which we'll look at next. That is everything that you need to disconnect underneath the machine before removing the top half of the machine to remove the drum. Okay, I'm just going to bring the machine down and carefully take this down to the floor level. And now we can actually take the things off the top of the machine. Okay, support bar needs to come off. 4 screws holding this in place. Right, again, we need to remove the concrete block. This will reduce the weight on the machine, although there is a concrete block on the front as well. So just remove these 3 screws. Lift the concrete block up, put that away safely. Now we need to remove the soap drawer. Open the soap drawer, make sure you support it, slide it towards you. Inside here you have 2 screws, sorry. You need to undo these. Underneath here you will find a couple of clips. If you just release these clips, the facial panel will come up. Just be careful, and then you can take this off. 1 terminal block on the back here. Just press the lug down and slide this backwards. Then you have the whole facial panel, which will not get damaged. Next, we need to remove the soap drawer. Okay, there's 1 screw here, 1 tucked underneath. I'm going to undo the whole of this because it just makes a little bit more room. This plate necessarily does not need to come off. Now I can disconnect the electrics from the water valve. Again, 2 little lugs, just press them and then the wiring will pull out of the socket. They're colored coded, so make sure you got them going on the correct way round. Now you need to take this hose off. There's no clip on this, we just got a little releasing tag. This then can pull away and you can slide the hose off and the whole soap drawer is ready to come out. While this is off, it's well worth cleaning. Again, you'll reduce any of the mold that's in the machine. Now we need to undo the door seal. Okay, so just open the door, put your fingers around, and you will find where the spring is. Just use a flat blade screwdriver, get behind the spring, then ease the spring all the way round off the door seal. Then just peel the door seal back. We will take this off after and clean it before we put it on the other drum. And next we need to remove the door lock because it's quite tricky to get the wiring out. This has got no screws. There's 2 plastic lugs. Press the lugs in while sliding the lock this direction. Then turn it to a 45-degree angle, slide it backwards. You can remove the emergency catch which goes to the bottom. We'll take that out the way for the moment, and we can remove the wiring off the door. Apart from the pressure switch, which I want to get out the way, the drum is now ready to come off the machine. Pressure switch is quite easy. Just little lug on the top. Press that in while sliding this out. Then you need to take the hose off the bottom. And we need to try and get this pressure switch out of the way, and I'll need to use a small screwdriver on that. I've got a little hook screwdriver here to get to the lugs behind, and I can press them in, and that allows me to take the pressure switch off. Okay, I'm just going to unclip the door lock wiring and lift this all out of the way. And now we can lift the drum out of the machine. Okay, this is when you would normally have 2 people lifting the drum out. You can lean the machine on its back and slide the drum out. That is possible. I'm a little bit too old for messing around with all that, and I have all the right equipment. So I've got myself a nice little hoist that I'm able to drop down. And I've got a pre-made clip for Hotpoint drums that I just slide over the 2 lugs here. And now I can carefully lift the machine up. And while I've got it in that position, I'm taking the 2 springs off. Do take a note, by the way, of the position that it comes out of these 2 lugs here. And I'm going to remove the 2 plastic brackets and the other suspension leg, spring. So I can put them all in a safe position. And just making sure I don't catch any of the wiring. I've got that out of the way. I will now move the cabinet out of the way. And while I've got it here, I'm going to take the suspension legs off, and let me zoom in for you so you can see that. Okay, the suspension legs have 2 pins, and you need to put a pair of pin nose pliers in the front here, pulling it backwards, but there's a release pin on the side, and you need to press that in as you pull this out. And once we've got them loose on both sides, there's the lug I'm talking about. So I need to push this forward slightly until that is just catching. And we've got a spider. Press that in, bring them forward. Now we'll pull them out completely, but the first thing I want to do is undo the concrete block at the front of the machine. Okay, I'm using a Torque 40 on this and just putting that in. These are very, very tight, and it would be easier to do it on the floor. And then the torque gun should be able to do that. Now, supporting the concrete block, that now can come away. Okay, as I said, now we've got some space to pull that way, and I'm not pulling against a concrete block. I'm just going to twist these and pull these pins out and put them to one side to fit on the other machine. And that's our two suspension legs. Then we need to take our pipe and swap this over onto the other machine as well. I'll just use a pair of pin nose pliers, press the clip down, release the clip, pull the pipe off. Now we're going to remove the door seal, and I've got to find where the spring is. The spring's on this side. I just use a little hook or flat blade screwdriver, get into the clip there, pull the spring over, and that can come away. And the door seal is off. Now, as you can see, this door seal's got some mold on it. So what I'm going to do is put this in a bleach solution for 4 or 5 hours to try and remove all the mold. As I said, you can watch that other video, and I'll put a link in the description below. And I'm also going to put this top soap drawer fill hose, and that just got to be squeezed, and you can see the crud that has built up over the years. By giving this a soak, it's going to be a new machine. Okay, I have a bleach solution here, so I'm going to put this in for a few hours to soak. It's all right, I'm going to wash my hands in a minute. I should be using gloves. And I'm just going to let that get in and soak. Fill both fill hoses, and I'm also going to put the soap drawer in there to remove any mold and soften up the detergent that's hardened up on that. And I'll put that away, and we'll replace this in a couple of seconds on video, but I'm actually leaving this to soak for 4 or 5 hours before I restart the work. I've left it a few hours now, and we're ready to reassemble the machine. And we've cleaned up all the components, all the hoses. They're all like new now. The door seal came out pretty good, removed 90% of all the mold, but it was only in there about 3.5 hours. So what we're going to do is reassemble this drum. And the first thing I would suggest you fit is the door seal. Now, the door seal on this one has a lug at the top here, and this part of the seal slides onto that lug. And then you need to work your way around, start at the back of the seal where the lug is, and then work your way around the drum. Sometimes it's a good idea to put a little bit of fairy liquid or detergent on the seal to make it slide over the lip easier. But as this is very clean and a little wet still, it should go on no problem. And just work your way around slowly and get this on. Okay, as you can see, the seal is all on. The drain off holes are at the bottom. And now we need to put the spring on, and the spring came off on this side. So we'll just put that on there, and then slowly stretch this and work your way around. making sure you don't pull the seal off the lip. And that has gone on perfectly. Okay, the next thing we need to fit is this hose, the soap drop box hose. Now you will look at the drum, there is usually an indication mark to line up with this piece. Now these are notorious for just a small leak. They weep occasionally. I think that's the easiest way of describing it. It's never usually a major leak, but what I do is I always put a little bit of this debore glue on. I've been using this washing machine glue for many years, and it's the best one on the market. You'll find this at the website, and it's not expensive, just a couple of quid a tube. Fantastic for gluing any rubber to plastic or plastic to plastic. And then we'll just slot this in, try and line up the holes. And then I'm going to twist that to line up with the locator, and that's done. Okay, next we're going to fit the suspension legs. Now let me just bring this up to the camera for you. You can see here the pin that you need to press down when you take them out, and this needs to lock in place when it goes in. The other thing you'll notice on the drum are the two positions for the suspension legs to go in. Now our suspension legs came off the front on this model of machines. On some models it may be on the back. So that's going to go in like that. Then you push the pin in and just press it all the way so it locks in place. And we'll do the other one now. And the reason I'm doing this now is because the concrete block is out of the way. So we'll put that on, and that's for two suspension legs locked in. And the suspension legs basically are like car shock absorbers, and they just cushion the drum as it vibrates. Okay, the next thing we're going to fit is the sump hose, and as you can see it came up like new. Just needed a little bit of soaking, and the hose is going to fit at roughly that angle. Now I didn't mark it when it came off because I normally adjust it after I've got it onto the machine. So I'll just bring this up to the camera for you. That basically goes on. Then we can put the screw was on that side, I believe. No, it wasn't, it was on that side. And I should be able to adjust this after. And I'll just doesn't really matter which way, as long as you've got clear access to it. And I will do it up tight after. You'll notice also with the drum, it already had a new heater and NTC sensor come with it. So although you were paying a lot of money for the drum, there is a £20–30 component already fitted to the actual drum, and this is because the seals on the heater are very difficult to get out. Now we'll rest that down, and the next thing, I'll just put this clip on now, so I can, when I fit it all into the machine, it's there for me. And now we need to fit the concrete block. That goes on. Make sure it goes square. Now I'll whip this up with the gun, but I will not do it all the way up, for the simple reason being is you're doing it up onto plastic and you don't want to over torque the actual screw. So my battery's a little bit low on this. With these, you do need to get the screw down so it's compressing the washer to keep the concrete block in place. People are usually sometimes do not do these up correctly, and they are difficult. You need to get the right pressure on them. And what I normally suggest is, if you see the washer was concaved, you want to be flattening the washer slightly. That means that there's pressure on the concrete block, because when this is spinning at 1000, 1200, 1400 RPM, they can become loose, and this would cause a rattling type sound. So I've just done these up off camera, because they do take a while to do up, and you want to make sure that you tension these correctly. And you don't want to over tighten, because you don't want to strip the plastic. So it is quite a careful procedure, and they are quite a lot of pressure on these. But I'm happy with that. That's all done. Now, while the machine's like this, I'm actually going to fit the motor now, because I have a hoist. If you were fitting this yourself, this is the point where I would actually fit this to the machine, because it's quite light. But I'm just going to roll it over so you can see how the motor goes. The motor just goes down on these lugs. So line up the two back ones, and the motor fits on there. And as I said earlier, this is a 3-phase motor, but if you do have a washing machine with a brush motor, do inspect the carbon brushes at this point, because it's better to do it while it's out of the machine than in the machine. Do not over tighten these, just take them hand tight and a little bit of a nip. That's on. We can put the belt on as well now to save us time later. Belt's quite easy. Put it on the motor first. You'll see the shiny side of the motor on the splines. If you line it up on that and then rotate it on the pulley, you will find it's in the correct location. You want the belt to line up in the middle of the pulley wheel. Okay, we've got all the drum, everything's attached to it that we need, and I'm going to connect this now to the hoist. Okay, one little technique, make sure when you're lifting it, until you've lifted it, that these suspension legs are clearly out of the way, because if you tilted the drum over, you may snap the legs. Also be careful when inserting this into the machine by hand that you protect the suspension legs. It is possible to fit the suspension legs after the drum has gone into location, but I prefer to do it this way. And this is the reason why, because it would go down and catch. Okay, I've got the drum up. Now I'll put the suspension legs down, because we're ready to insert this into the machine or into the carcass. And I'll do it this way for you. Remember, make sure all your wiring is tucked out of the way. I never like this wire at the back of the machine here, which goes to the water valves. It's a good idea. There are a couple of holes, and it's a good idea to put some cable ties on this to tuck the wire out the way, because on some machines it can chafe on the concrete block. So we'll just rotate this round, and I will slowly lower this now. Just be careful not to catch any wiring. And at this point now, I'm going to connect the two springs and put them into their location. Okay, the next thing we need to fit is the two spring supports. These are plastic, and you can see the mark where it was hanging before. And we've got one with the T, and that goes in that way. So we hang that there. And on this side, exactly the same. The T goes to the outside, and we hang that there. And the spring goes on the back one with the hook facing outwards, so it locates into that lug. And I'll just put that there. Again, on the back one, but on this one, it will be going forward on the bottom. And we'll put that there. And now we need to lower the drum a little, making sure you don't catch any wires. That's one spring on. I'll just lift the drum slightly, and that's both on. I can now take the weight off this, remove the two clips, and put my cable up out of the way. Okay, and now we can attach the bits at the top before we tilt the machine over. Okay, next we're going to fit the door lock and the emergency pull cord. Now the emergency pull cord, as you can see, has got a curvature in it, and this needs to be going to the cabinet side. So if I bring this up to the camera for you, this actually goes in at an angle and then twists, and that's in place. Now we're going to be able to drop this down on the machine. Bear with me, I just got it twisted. And we will put the wiring onto the door lock. Now if you ever have a problem with your door lock, we do sell door locks at the website, new, and that just clips in. The plug can only go one way. The door lock then can go down, and as you saw me take it off, I'll put it in at a 45-degree angle and then slide it backwards until the two lugs on the side lock. Now I'll just clip the wiring back into place because there's a clip on the inside here. That one goes to the pressure switch, that one goes to the circuit board. As they say in the trade, we all make mistakes. Even when you've been doing this for many years, I actually forgot to fit the pressure pipe to the drum when the drum was out, because it would have been much easier. But I'm able to do this at this point, no problem at all, because I know where it locates, and it locates down the bottom. You just need to push the pipe on. And then make sure it sits in its location lugs, and that sits there nicely. Now we can fit the pressure switch. The pressure switch has got this little catch bit, and that locates into there. We can then fit the pressure pipe. They normally just slide on. You can use a set of clips. And now we'll connect up the wiring for the pressure switch. That just pushes in, locks into position. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do before fitting the facial panel is put the soap box in, and I'm going to leave the plastic off the back so it gives me a bit of room. And then this hose just goes onto the soap box, and once you've got it all the way on, make sure you put the clip at the side up and that just clips over the soap box, and we'll leave that loose there. Now we'll fit the control panel, connect up the electrics, 2 location lugs at the bottom, and the clips go on the inside. And then we'll drop that down. That locks in place, 2 screws at the top, and we will just line up the soap box in the correct position. Now we'll line up the soap box and get it into the correct location, and that's in. And then we'll pop the 2 screws in. Now we'll fit the panel to the back, and there's a little lip on the bottom here that needs to go over, and that locks into place. And we're doing this now to support the soap drawer because we wouldn't want to damage it while doing any other jobs. And then I'll connect the wiring for the 2 water valves. Now the 2 plugs for the water valves are color coded, so we got blue and white wires, but it's not really important because you'll notice here that there are some location lugs, and this one has got 3 slots in it, and that goes into that valve, and this one here has got 2 slots, space, then 1 slot, and that one goes into that one there, and they're done out of the way. Now I was talking to you about this wire. This is a problem. This is a design fault, and I'm just going to show you how to rectify that. I use a couple of small cable ties, and I'll just put them through, tuck the wiring up, and then do these cable ties. I'm just going to rotate that round, and they can sit out the back there, but at least this wiring is protected now from chafing against the concrete block, which I forgot to fit. Right, I just had to take the top bar off because I forgot to fit the concrete block. So that just fits on to the top. This is exactly the same as the forward concrete block. So I'll just quickly whip this up and then we'll do it hand tight. Right, I'm just going to use the impactor for quickness. Do not use the impactor to tighten it all the way, just use it to whip it down and then do the last bit by hand. The reason I say that, you don't want to over tighten these. These washers are exactly the same. They have got a curvature in, and you just need to take them tight so they just start flattening the washer, and that means that there's tension on the concrete block. And just cut the excess off the cable ties so it's neat and tidy, and that wiring is protected. Okay, I've put the machine on the workbench on the side to make it easier for you to see. Okay, I've had to change the hose. I fitted it slightly on the wrong side, so I've moved it round, and we just need to get this hose onto the pump. Grips or hook nose pliers are quite good with these hose clips, and then slide that all the way up so it's in the correct location, and then release it. And the reason I put it on the side instead of on the back is it's going to be easier to move the drum to line up the suspension legs with the holes that they came out. Now you'll notice here there's a couple of pins, and as we do this up they will both slot in either side, so do not get them the wrong way. So we'll just do this one up. And as you can see, the pin here and the pin on this side has come through. We'll quickly do the top one. see it much better here. You've got the 2 pins. Just hand tight, 1/4 of a turn. Now all we need to do is the electrics at the back of the machine. I also forgot to mention, if you take the flap off, and we need the emergency pull cord, the green one that we fitted earlier, to come down through, and that just sits in that location. And now we can put that back on. Okay, the next thing is the electrics. The motor plug just plugs straight in. There's no actual earth wire going onto the motor, so that was, I would have thought the manufacturer would have put an earth wire linking from the motor to the heater, but they haven't on this. So the earth wire goes on the heater. The NTC plug goes in. The live wire goes in, and the neutral wire goes in. And now we just need to put a couple of cable ties on to support the wiring. Then we'll just cut them off. And that's all done. We can put the back of the machine on, but before we do that, I'm going to test the machine. Okay, we've turned the machine round. The last 2 things to fit is the door seal, the outer spring. So just put this on, carefully go round, and make sure you don't twist the door seal. This means make sure that there's no twists in it. Okay, that's the door seal fitted. Now, if you do need any parts for your washing machine, as I said, the model number is there and on the back of the machine. And we do sell replacement door seals and genuine door seals for these Hotpoint machines. And the spring came off at the bottom here, so you just got to slowly take this band into the groove and then stretch it. And that's all fitted. We just need to fit the soap drawer now, and as you can see, because we soaked it in the bleach, it's removed all the mold and made it like new again. Slot this into location, just do a test on it, and now we're ready to do a leak check on the washing machine. Turn it to a spin cycle, and you can hear how quiet that drum is now compared to the old one. So the next thing we need to do is to actually do a leak check on the washing machine to make sure all the hoses, there's no leaks on anything. So I'll quickly do that now. And there you go. The easiest way to check for leaks if you're doing this in your house is to put some newspaper underneath the machine. And if you see any drips on the newspaper, then you know you may have a leak and you need to inspect one of the hoses. But for the sake of just under £100, we've totally rebuilt this machine and it's as good as new. Should go on for quite a few years yet. Thanks very much indeed for watching this video. Do remember that all the parts for this are available in the description below. And if you do need any technical assistance with any repairs, this video is time-stamped, so you will be able to go to the specific point. Remember, with the suspension brackets and the suspension legs, on some models of machines, they may be in a different location. I hope you enjoyed this video. Remember, you will find new and used parts at the website, so just put your model number in off the identification plate and do a search on the website. And there are hundreds of tutorials to help you repair your machines. Thanks very much indeed for watching. Remember, you can always support the website by donating and clicking on the Buy Paul a Beer page. Thanks very much indeed for watching.